Hey, it's Pink Buddha, and today Izotope just released Neutron 4. And I was super excited about this because I actually use Neutron all the time in my mixes. So today I thought I might show you 3 main reasons why I love Neutron so much, which includes some of the new features in Neutron 4. So let's just jump on in and check this out. So one of the first things I really love about Neutron is they give you such a great starting point to your mix. That begins with a lot of general controls and suggestions, but you always have the ability to open up the hood and dig in to the specific details. For example, in Neutron 4, you can start with this assistant view, and you just simply play your audio to get started. It listens to it, and then comes up with a custom recommendation. So a couple of things are happening here on this first view. One is this tone matching, where it's taking kind of a general EQ for the kick, snare, toms, or just drums as a whole, cymbals, and this goes deep into all sorts of different sounds, but we're going to focus here on drums because obviously this is drums. And this slider here allows you to adjust how much you are going to push your audio towards this target EQ. Now with the general drums, these are going to be pretty close to what it was already, but let's take it and push it towards something different, like maybe these cymbals. See how the white audio, which is ours, is being pushed towards the target tone. Oh, and if you want to pick this up, there's a link in the description or the comments below. It's an affiliate link. It does help me out on my channel if you buy it through there, but they did not pay me for this video, although they did give me a free copy to review. Okay, so here's what happens when we apply this to a bass sound. It's heard that it's a bass, and we have a couple different target EQs we can aim it towards. One just being a generic bass sound. You don't really notice as much there because it's already really close to that shape. If we go to deep bass though, at a much higher low end here, that's the normal sound. This is the new target, and sub bass. I kind of like it right there. Now in Neutron 4, there's also a couple other general controls on this assistant panel. Punch, which determines the amount of dynamics that you might want to have in there. This adds to the dynamics or takes it away. You can also shape the attack and the sustain. Let's really try to crank those into a direction to shape the sound. You also have some general distortion controls here. And a tone control to be either push that towards the higher end or low end. And then some width control. Let's go back to the drums and fiddle with those other features here. Now, as I mentioned, you can always start off with these general controls and then dive into the specifics. And here's where the real magic is. So you can open up the hood and then figure out what exactly is going on. So the tone matching here is generally controlling the sculptor. See, if I increase this to 92, you can see this adjustment happening here. And if I change it to symbols and then match that control like this, it's going to come in here and change it to symbols and do these other elements. So you could just ignore everything on this front panel, but it's kind of a nice way to get started without getting too much in the weeds. The punch is generally affecting the compressor. So it's already here on punch, and the controls for this punch here are affecting what's happening in this section. So if you wanted to dive in, maybe you don't want it to be this high on the low end, but you do on the other parts. You can start making some of those subtle adjustments. The distortion in the front panel then goes to the exciter. So you can do some general controls here and dive into the specifics for that exciter. So here's what I love about this. This is such a great way to learn how to mix because they give you a starting point and then you can dig into those specifics, open up the hood, and see the inner workings of what's actually helping create this sound. It's kind of the best of both worlds. You get these sophisticated suggestions, but then you can also tinker with it as much as you want. The second thing I really love about Neutron is they have some kick-ass modules, and these are my favorite ones. The first is the masking tool, and this is new for Neutron 4, because one of the biggest challenges to mixing when you're layering different sounds is to keep them from getting in each other's way. And this new unmask module provides a very easy way to do so. What you need to do first is to route a sidechain signal that you want into this. So let's go to the bass sound, and I'm going to route into the sidechain here the drum loop. Pull up the unmasking tool, and let's check this out. So the purple signal here is the sound coming from the drums, and then this white one is the bass sound. So what I want to do is make sure that these aren't overlapping too much. The most common thing you want to do is get rid of some of the low end in the bass whenever the kick comes in, so we don't have too many frequencies doubling up down here on the low end. So for this situation, I can just grab this section. So I'm going to focus in on kind of the low end here, and then it's just about dialing it in for taste. When cranked all the way up, I am now eliminating basically the bass sound below 200 Hertz from the kick drum. Now that's more extreme than you'd ever want to do. So what I usually like to do is turn this all the way up, get it really cranking hard, and then just pull down the mix. Yeah, about right there, and then I'm just going to pull it down in the mix. We could also route this the other direction by taking the bass and putting it into the drums to mask it there. I'm going to do the opposite here. I'm just going to focus this on the higher end. So what this does is now allows the two sounds to be interacting with each other. A little bit here goes a long ways. The second module that I really love is the Equalizer. Equalizers can be an extremely boring tool, but here's why the Neutron's Equalizer is so great. One is that you can bring the masking in here too, and it shows you by this increasing orange where there's more masking that's happening. Still a fair amount happening in the lower end. From the orange, which is the bass, so I might go into the bass and then turn the Equalizer down a little bit here. So with the combination of the unmasked module and the ability to see the masking in the EQ, you have such great controls to keep your parts from overlapping each other too much. The second thing I love about Neutron's EQ is that it also kind of functions as a multi-band compressor because each EQ point can be triggered by dynamics. Let me show you how. So we could use this on the drums if you wanted to tame some of those higher frequencies. And just do a little dip in this part, put on the dynamic EQ. Now I could also use this in another way, such as to increase the high end in my overall drum sound. But instead of just making it brighter, I want it to sound a little bit more dynamic. So I turn up the treble, but then add the dynamic control so that it pulls it back whenever there's a sound that pushes through too much. And that kind of precision in this EQ is amazing. So the third module that I love using is the multi-band exciter. And what I love about this multi-band exciter is the control that it gives you over the sound. I usually, on drums, like to go easy on the low end for the exciter because it just tends to make it pretty muddy. Let's listen to how that sounds. See, to me, that sounds a little bit too muddy. So I'm going to keep that fairly low, maybe just a little bit to give it energy. And then we can unsolo that, go on to the midsection. You can choose a totally different type of exciter for this section. This particular exciter in the midsection really brings out that room sound. And then the high end is a nice way of just increasing some sparkle. Okay, I like that sound, but it's a little bit too much, so I'm just going to pull back the entire mix of the exciter. And the last module that I love using all the time is the Transient Shaper. Let's push that one like maybe more here from the beginning. This is just a great way to add more transient to your drums. I use this one a lot. So the third and last reason why I love Neutron so much is that you can put these on individual parts and also mix buses. For example, I can group these two together in Ableton and then throw a Neutron on the whole group as well. Now this would be a great place to throw in a reference track, and that's one of the other new things for Neutron 4. So you can throw in another piece of music or something like that to have a curve that you're matching, and then use the tone match to bring your audio closer to the tone that you're looking for. I'm just going to put that to 0 right now because I'd rather come in here and go to all purpose and like say I want to add more fullness or something like that. Kind of nice right there. You also have a number of presets that you can use at any time for individual parts or for group ones. So I could just go to the general mix bus here and then find some presets that might work for me, try these out, continue to tweak them. Again, you can do something more general and dive into the specifics, but Neutron doesn't need to be just limited to individual tracks. Because as you saw over here, we have a lot of individual parts even within these, especially like with the drums, between the snare, the kick, the toms, cymbals, and stuff like that. So you could put Neutron on individual parts in your drums, the drums as a whole, and then maybe your entire mix bus, or at least different groups, to pull them together and use some of this intelligence on those areas. Okay, so that's a wrap. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are about this new Neutron 4. You can pick it up through a link here in the description or the comments below. See you next time.